Welcome to the deep dive. We take the source material you send us, cut through the noise, and really get to the heart of it.
Yeah, giving you the essential knowledge you need.
So today, we've got something pretty, well, frankly alarming. It's from a single news report about an incident right near the White House.
That's right. And our deep dive today is looking at what seems like a small thing, using a laser pointer.
A really common device.
Exactly. But when you aim that simple device at an aircraft, and especially in this case, the presidential helicopter Marine One, well, the consequences, legally and for safety, they're huge.
Okay, so our mission today is definitely to go beyond just the headline here. We need to understand the physics, actually, and the federal law that makes a cheap laser pointer potentially land someone in prison for years.
Yeah, like how does a $5 item become that serious?
Right. We're really decoding why this incident targeting Marine One, with former President Trump on board, apparently posed such an immediate, almost catastrophic risk.
And the stakes were incredibly high. I mean, this wasn't just any flight. It was low altitude, very sensitive, in super restricted airspace.
So let's picture the scene. Marine One is lifting off, right, climbing pretty steeply from the south lawn of the White House. Tight space.
Very vulnerable at that point. Close to the ground, pilots needing absolute precision.
Okay, so let's break down the incident itself. It escalated fast. It starts with a Secret Service officer, Diego Santiago. He's monitoring the perimeter near the south lawn.
Right, standard procedure. And he spots someone identified as Samuel Winckler over on Constitution Avenue.
And the source material actually gives some details about Winckler.
It does. It says he was reportedly walking shirtless and yelling to himself, so perhaps already drawing some attention.
Okay, so Officer Santiago sees this, and he shines a flashlight towards Winckler. Maybe standard protocol, right, to get his attention or check things out.
Exactly, but the reaction was immediate and aggressive. According to Santiago's report, Winckler instantly pointed a red laser beam right into the officer's eyes.
Wow. Okay, that alone is serious,
Yeah.
assaulting an officer.
Definitely. But then it just jumped immediately from that street-level confrontation to a major federal issue.
Awesome.
Because after pointing it at Santiago, Winckler then aimed the same laser up at Marine One, which was, just taking off right then.
The timing and location, that's critical. Marine One, low over D.C., it's unmistakable.
Absolutely. And seeing that direct threat to the president's helicopter, Santiago didn't hesitate. He arrested Winckler right there on the spot.
Okay, so that takes us from the street to the legal system, federal court.
Right. Winckler was charged very quickly with one felony count, specifically aiming a laser pointer at an aircraft.
A felony count. And the source mentions the potential penalty.
It does. We're talking up to 5 years in federal prison.
5 years? For a laser pointer, I mean, you can buy these things anywhere. It still seems kind of steep. Does the punishment really fit the risk?
Well, it does when you understand why the law exists. It's about protecting lives. That 5-year maximum is directly tied to the danger involved. And Officer Santiago's affidavit spells it out. The laser beam created a risk of, quote, flash blindness and pilot disorientation.
Flash blindness. That sounds bad, obviously.
Yeah.
But maybe break that down for us. What does that actually feel like or do if you're flying, say, Marine One?
Okay. Imagine you're in total darkness, right? And someone sets off a bright camera flash right in your face.
Ugh, yeah. You see spots for a while.
Exactly. That after image, that temporary blindness, that's flash blindness. Now, put that in a cockpit at night, low to the ground. It's instant. It can be completely incapacitating.
But hang on, these are tiny handheld lasers. How can something that small, like a pen, really affect a whole cockpit from, down on the street? Doesn't the beam just spread out?
That's the key point people often miss. Yes, the beam does spread out. It diverges. So that tiny point of light leaving the pointer, by the time it travels, say, hundreds of feet up to Marine One,
It's bigger.
much bigger. It could easily be a bright circle several feet across, washing over the entire windshield.
Okay, wow. So it's not hitting just one pilot's eye. It's basically flooding the whole cockpit with intense light.
Precisely. And that light just overwhelms the rods and cones in the pilot's eyes. You lose night vision instantly. You can lose spatial orientation, can't tell up from down, judge distance. Plus, the glare inside the cockpit makes it hard, maybe impossible, to read critical instruments.
And doing this while Marine One is taking off from the White House, that makes it even worse.
Exponentially worse. Think about it. A commercial airliner at 30,000 feet, if something like this happens, they have altitude, maybe some time to recover, autopilot even.
Right.
Marine One, taking off near huge obstacles like the Washington Monument, maneuvering in tight, restricted airspace, often with other security helicopters nearby.
Hmm.
There is zero margin for error.
So even a split second of disorientation.
Could be catastrophic. Collision with a building, another aircraft, loss of control near the ground. It's incredibly dangerous.
Okay, so this one incident, this one guy on Constitution Avenue,
Mm-hmm.
it plugs into a much bigger problem the FAA keeps warning about.
Absolutely. If you zoom out, this vulnerability is a nationwide issue. The Federal Aviation Administration consistently warns about laser strikes being a serious threat. And the numbers, well, they're pretty staggering.
What are we talking about?
The FAA reported over 12,000 laser incidents across the country just last year.
12,000 in 1 year. That's not rare. That's happening all the time.
Every single day, multiple times a day, pilots are dealing with this. It's a constant threat.
And locally, here in the D.C. area.
The threat is very real here, too. The source material mentioned over 60 incidents reported just in the Washington area so far this year, in 2025.
Oh, wow. So pilots flying into and out of D.C. are facing this regularly.
Yeah, which brings us back to Winckler, the person involved. His reaction after being arrested is, well, it adds another layer to this.
Right, because you have the extreme danger of the act itself, but then you have the mindset, apparently, the person who did it. It gets complicated.
Well, the intent often takes a back seat when the potential harm is so great. But yeah, the details from the arrest are pretty revealing about his immediate realization, maybe.
What does the source say?
It quotes him, actually. Says that when he was taken into custody, he reportedly dropped to his knees and said, quote, "I should apologize to Donald Trump."
Okay, so that suggests he knew what he'd pointed it at, right?
Yeah.
He understood it wasn't just some random plane. It was Marine One.
It certainly seems that way. Like he recognized he'd crossed a pretty significant line there.
But then, didn't he also claim something else later? About not knowing it was illegal?
Yeah, that's the contrast. He apparently told police later he didn't realize aiming a laser at any aircraft was illegal. Claimed he just, shines the beam at all kinds of things.
So how does the law handle that? If he says he didn't mean to cause harm or break the law?
That's a really important point in federal cases like this. Generally, the prosecution doesn't have to prove he had malicious intent, like wanting the helicopter to crash. They usually just need to prove that he knowingly performed the action aiming the laser at the aircraft. And that action itself creates the kind of danger the law is specifically designed to prevent.
So ignorance isn't really a defense.
Not typically, no. Especially when the act creates such a clear and present danger, the focus is on the action and its inherent risk.
In other words, the court cares less about why he did it and more about the fact that he did it, creating that immediate risk of flash blindness right near the White House.
Exactly. The potential impact on flight safety, the potential for chaos in that sensitive area, that's what drives the legal response. It overrides the, "I was just playing around" defense.
And the system took it very seriously from the get-go. The source mentioned he was scheduled to see a federal magistrate judge almost right away.
Yeah, that quick turnaround shows how seriously the authorities take these kinds of threats. It's a felony charge, and they move fast.
So, wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for you listening right now? I think it's this huge gap between how harmless something seems and how dangerous it actually is.
Yeah, that disconnect is key.
A quick action with a cheap, easy-to-get device suddenly triggers major federal charges up to 5 years, all because of the physics of light and the very real dangers in aviation, especially low-level flight.
That dollar store gadget becomes a federal crime the second that light hits a cockpit.
And it makes you think, those 12,000 incidents nationally, that points to a bigger issue, doesn't it?
It really does. It suggests a pretty significant lack of public awareness. People are using these things maybe without fully grasping that pointing them upwards isn't just annoying, it's incredibly dangerous and illegal.
They're not seeing it as a weapon, maybe.
Right. But the government, the FAA, pilots, they see it as a direct threat, a threat the law treats very, very seriously, almost like an assault, because of the potential consequences.
It's a stark reminder, I think, that even simple tech can have really high stakes depending on how it's used. We saw how fast something on Constitution Avenue turned into a federal case.
Indeed. And the sheer number of these laser strikes shows it's not just about protecting VIP flights like Marine One. It's about the safety of the entire air travel system, day in and day out, from this deceptively simple threat.
A fascinating, if unsettling, deep dive into physics, flight safety, and federal law. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.